still the missing money at the airport, still much missing money at the airport. And most of the times, when you speak to people about Sadibou Kamaso, the answer or some of the questions that they will put to your people is they still have missing money. How do you work towards clearing this mindset for the people that are still believing that Sadibou Kamaso still has some money that is
I wish I knew that question was going to be asked because deliberately I brought my receipts and the findings of the commission and it's in my bag. So I wish I knew, then I can get you the findings of the commission. And I believe people graduate from certain things because from 2022 I've been answering the same question. And I've said that times without number what had happened and how I was taken to a commission, an independent commission, where I explained that I had started paying the money, and in fact the commission decided the balance that was supposed to be the balance should be waived. And I explained, like I said again, in 2019 was when this happened. 2019, I traveled initially to Angola as the head of delegation for the Gambia Football Federation for the World Cup qualifiers. I was giving almost $30,000. I didn't even have a per diem. They said there was no money. But with the amount I was given, I went to the hotel, I negotiated from the amount that was supposed to be the exact amount, but I negotiated and brought in back 5,000 over $6,000 change, $5,000 to $6,000 change. Nobody mentioned that. I could have kept it. I negotiated because the exact amount of the invoice was what they gave me, and I didn't go with a per diem. I went, I spoke to the general manager, he agreed. He even asked me, do you want me to give you a receipt for the amount that is on the, I said, no, give me the amount of what I had paid. I called the executive right there to say, I've got change. And they were wondering, how did you manage to get change? I said, from the monies that you gave me, I managed to negotiate with the general manager. We lost that game. The next game was the AFCON qualifiers. There were issues that had happened with some players, with some journalists in Angola, and I was chosen again to go as head of delegation because usually the person leading the team usually rotates. But I was selected again based on my negotiations with the general manager. This time around, I went through Morocco. The first time I went through Addis Ababa, and when I went, because the funds was more than $10,000, I had to declare it. They got me a hotel, took me somewhere, and the funds were safe. My second trip to Morocco, I didn't have a visa because that whole day, the morning, I was between Ministry of Sports, Youth and Sports, Finance, just to get the money. The whole day, I was running around. By the time I got the money, it was late, and that evening I flew. I went to Casablanca, and I said, when I went there, I passed through the security. Everybody who knows you have to, if you go to Casablanca, the airport there, you know how it works. I went through security, and I declared. They showed the money, and I declared it. And people keep thinking the amount in question was a big bag. It was in an envelope. It was in an envelope. It was not even the $25,000 because before I left, I had given some part of the money to the team manager because he told me he takes care of certain things in my absence, like food, water, and transport of the players. I left a certain amount with the team manager, and the envelope was in my bag. When I went to the airport, they screened and saw it. They called me in a corner. We counted the money. They confirmed, and I showed them the letter the federation usually writes to say, this is what the money is meant for. I was screened. They asked me questions, and I answered. Then I was taken to a waiting area where people wait. I didn't have a visa, so I was there. But during that moment, out of tiredness, like I said, I inadvertently stepped at some point. I only realized that the money was missing when I went to Angola because the person who did it professionally. When I got to Angola, the envelope was still there, but they cut monies, they cut papers with the exact size. So people were saying, well, I would open and I would see the envelope in there, but I thought, okay, it's in there. When I touch it, it's there. When I went to Angola to pay the hotel, that's when I realized the money was not there. Devastated, I called the emergency committee. And the emergency committee was the president, the 3 vice presidents, and myself. And I remember being told by some people, don't worry about it, we will find a way to cover it. And I said, no, I will pay it. And when Musa Barrow came there, he found out the money got lost because he's somebody that I, played a great part in his life. He offered to pay the money because when they came, they found me crying. I was devastated. What happened? I said, I lost money. What money? Let me pay it. I said, no, you're not going to pay it. He said, sir, it's just 20. I said, it's not up to 25,000. Let me pay it. I said, no. It happened to me. I will pay it. It's going to come from my sweat. Because I know even if I had Musa to pay, people will say, Sadibou Kamaso. So I had to pay. And I'm telling you, there were some executive members that told me not to pay. When So what happened was I went to the general manager. Well, no, he actually came to my room because he said he didn't see me. I was crying and then he asked what happened and I explained the situation to him. And he said a similar thing happened to him traveling from Angola to Portugal. And I have a letter showing during that trip, I lost a whole bag of the general consul, the consul of Angola to Gambia to Angola, Haji. His bag got missing, a whole suitcase. It's not my fault. Airmorok paid me 21,000 eventually. You want me to answer the question? Allow me to take my time. You let me explain because I want to shut this matter down because I've answered this time without number. The general manager called me and said, I heard you were crying. What happened? And I explained that this was what happened. He said, don't worry. This happened to me when I was traveling one time. He said, I trusted and believed you when you came here the last time. You were supposed to pay me this amount. You negotiated and you took the money back. In fact, you called them in my presence. So I trusted you. How much was the federation supposed to bring me back? The manager did all the calculation. He gave me his own discount. So the federation was supposed to bring me 16,500 euros. I have the letters. Usman Chodrame brought the 16,500 euros because the manager said he gave me some more discounts just to ensure he played his part to pay that. And from that money, when I came, I still gave the change. And when I came back, I went to the director of finance. I said, give me a bank account that I can pay this money to because you have different bank accounts. And he said, no, I don't have any directive from the executive for you to pay. So I went to one of the staff. I said, my team has been fined and I need to pay money for the team. That's how I got an account and I started paying. Way after, when I had forgotten it, I was called to say, this matter is going to be investigated. Because I'll say this. When the money got lost, people thought I was going to be silent because I was very vocal. And I would hear people say, now he'll stay quiet because he lost money. I was not the first person who lost money, but I will not mention it. Let them mention it. That was the time I was still more vocal. I will tell the president what I feel. This is what I believe. I was told they were going to investigate the matter, and I said, go ahead, investigate the matter. And when they investigated the matter, I came with my receipts to show them what I had paid because I used to print for the federation for free. I used to lend the money. I used to lend federation money, 500,000, 300 when they needed resources, and I have it. Why was I doing that? Why would I steal something like that? The money was in an envelope. So people think I was carrying a huge bag, the man who slept at the airport and the money was taken. Those who know $25,000, you tell them, they'll show you. So that's it. That's what happened. I got to Angola. I didn't see the money. Nobody ever knows how money was taken from you. If somebody steals your money now, you only realize money was stolen. But you never know how. If you know how it was stolen, you would have cut the teeth, no? So that's what happened. And when I came, I started making the payments. When I was being investigated, I had paid over 600,000 already. When I went to the panel, they asked me, I showed them my receipts. They said, we are surprised that this is being investigated when you had made payments. And I told them, even the monies the federation owe me because I used to print tickets for them, I used to print stuff, deducted from that. And that's what happened. So the committee sat, and then they got back to me and said, the amount that was, I have the letter. When we finish, I can show you, signed by the president.
Yes, I have a final question. That is going to get in connection with the presidential debate being organized by the Sport Journalists Association of the Gambia. I believe you must have received the information, the invitation. Yes, how do you look forward to that presidential debate?
I am ready and fired up. I am always ready. We can debate tomorrow or tonight. I'm ready and fired up. I mean, I was the sole candidate the last election, so I'm ready and fired up. When I got the day I got the email, I responded the same day. I don't hide behind keyboards and things of that sort. I'm ready for this debate because if you want to lead football in the Gambia, you should be accountable to everybody. We have to be able to tell the people what we want to do. So I'm ready and fired up for the debate.
Yeah, finally, from me, Sadibou Capital FM. Mr. Chairman, last time, the last election, you came with your people, of course. That was all over social media. This is the people behind Sadibou Kamaso. Coming back today, and of course, people expect your starting 11 to be like the players on the high table. But anyway, if you just produce a manifesto, is it that you are keeping it under the carpet or you're learning from the past?
No. If you pay attention to our last launching, we did two. We launched the manifesto at Serekunda East Park, and then we unveiled the team at Seaview. If you follow, that's how it happened. We launched the manifesto at Serekunda East Park, and we unveiled the team at Seaview. So these were done at different times.
Yeah, I'm talking about expectations today at the D-Day.
Yeah, we're following the same approach. We launched the manifesto to tell the people what we have for Gambian football, and the team will surely come. But I'm sure you have an idea as to who's behind the team already. Now you know, because the idea is to ensure that we have, people being represented from all facets of, football development in the country. You saw an ex-player. We were the first to bring an ex-player here. All those ideas are copied from us. Last election, you saw I brought Ibu Sila. Today, you've seen Momodu Ziko Sise here, and I can assure you he's going to be in the team.
He's part of the players.
I can assure you he's going to be in the team.
Is he part of the starting 11?
I can assure you he's going to be in the team. The starting 11 actually, don't confuse the starting 11 and the team, because the executive is different. Starting 11 is what we have for Gambian football. We want people to understand football. That's why we use the term starting 11. Thank you.
Kamaso, last election you lose. This time around, are you confident you are going to win this time around against
Nobody goes to any competition and expecting to lose. I am very confident. I can tell you one thing. There's a paradigm shift. We have a different approach. We've learned our lessons, and once bitten, twice shy. We know what we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Ibrahim Fadera, Senegal Times. You've mentioned that the government does not vote, but they have key priority to download infrastructure. Behind your podium, we saw the picture of the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Bakari Baji. What was that signal in terms of preparation?
No, that has nothing to do with. This is the President International Awards Hall, and this place is under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. This hall is for private hire. As you can see, people can hire. As chairman of Gambia Senior Secondary School, I've given them a contract of over 1 million to do tables and chairs for Gambia High School. So I usually patronize the PIA. The hall is for hire, and we hired the hall to use the hall. So that has nothing to do with.
But there was a picture before they replaced it with Bakari Baji's picture.
No, there are two pictures. One was Bakari Baji's picture was on one side. There's a picture of a white gentleman on the other side. I think because the screen was blocking it, they swapped it. But that had nothing to do with removing the picture. It has nothing to do with Bakari Baji. This is not Bakari Baji's show. This is our show. Thank you.
I'm Aisha Lam from the Lam Perspective. We have seen that millions of Galaxies have entered the GFF, and you guys have unfinished projects like the project of summer. What will your administration do to commit to a technical audit of these stalled projects within your first 100 days?
See, that's why I said the first 100 days we should be held accountable. Already the GF is signing series of contracts, and you do not know what is in the contract. And a breach of contract, leads to legal litigation. Right now, we cannot tell you this is what we're doing about the contracts they've signed. But one thing I can assure you, with the people that we have legal luminaries that are going to look at those contracts to ensure those contracts represent the minds of the stakeholders. It benefits the people. A lot of monies have come into this country. They said 14 projects or 14 interventions. But where are the fields? I keep saying, even if you give your wife the pants, you come home, you need to smell some food or see some food. So with all the resources that have been in this country, look at what happened to the Nyakoi project. We would ensure there's transparency with all these projects. From the contract award process to how the contract is happening in phases. I think I mentioned that we're going to have a platform. We already have a digital platform established where even all these contracts will be, people can monitor. We have people who have volunteered to do all those things for the Gambia Football Federation. So all the contracts that are being awarded, whoever has not performed will have to return the monies, because it is not an individual's, it is for the Gambia and the people of the Gambia.
My last question: public perception. People do not have trust in the GFF leadership. Anytime we talk about GFF, somebody will say something otherwise, and it's part of your starting 11. How do you make sure in your 100 days you communicate with the people? As you already mentioned, stakeholders are not only the right people that vote, or even the public have one of those stakeholders. But how would you remedy this in your 100 days? Is it part of your key priorities?
I'm sure if you check the first 100 days, we said a stakeholder engagement talk. We're engaging the clubs, the allied association, even the fans, because TRC keeps being accused of focusing on social media and general public. That's what they accuse us of. They keep saying Sadibou and his people don't have a team. They just follow people outside. But it is these people that bring in resources. Already that is part of our agenda. I think we should be credited for fan engagement. When we were coming into office, our mission was to stimulate interest and passion, to increase stakeholder participation, to bring football and its benefits to the doorstep of every Gambian. Prior to 2022, you tell me, how many social media platforms were talking about football like this? But we made sure people understand. That's why they were accusing me, and I don't run from interviews. We go to every media institution that wants to interview, and SR Jack, being our media liaison officer here, handles all the interviews. So we'll ensure we do a stakeholder engagement. We want to know what the people want, but as a leader, you have to show the people why you want to lead. You have to have a vision, the roadmap, and the tools. Then the inputs of the others can embellish whatever you have. That is it to move. So I can assure you, in the first 100 days, we're going to do a stakeholder engagement tour. In fact, one of the things that we're going to introduce is a 72-hour helpline where people can reach out to the federation and expect to get an answer within 72 hours. Whether you have a complaint or you have issues to talk about, you have something to report anonymously for it to be reported, we are going to make sure those things are handled so that the people can feel they belong to the football, not an individual. I can tell you, I am aware of an instance where a federation president, I'm not going to mention, was unable to attend a function and he sent his son instead of sending an executive member. Can you imagine that? I cannot lead TRC, and because I cannot attend a function, instead of sending one of my guys, I send my son. It's not your property. So we are going to ensure we are accountable to the people. That's why we said the manifesto is not just a document, it's a promissory note and a contract between us and the stakeholders that they can hold us to account.
And perhaps you may be aware that the current leadership is not something. This is something that is not part of your study level. That is the media and the federation. There's a gap between the media and the federation. This is also something that is very important. But the media plays a very important.
No, it's there. You probably there's a media engagement part.
Yeah. So how would you also make sure that this is strengthened, not only strengthened, but also the media, especially sport journalists, also have first-hand information that is from the federation, because access to information is something very important in this country. In fact, it is a law, but access to information in the federation, it's a mountain climb.
Everybody will tell you we are the most accessible team when it comes to interviews or engagements. I'm sure.
This thing, when you get into it,
That's why I said the starting 11 is not just a mere document; it's a promissory note and a contract. So I'm already telling you we have a contract. Whatever is in the document is a contract between us, whether it's the media, the coaches, the referees, and the medics. So we have a contract now. It is binding. So you go through the starting 11. If you're paying attention to the presentation, there's a portion that I mentioned that the communication aspect is important. Without the sports journalists, we're not going anywhere. And I said it, you don't block people from your Facebook page. You don't block people from your WhatsApp groups. You engage because they have to be critical to you. People say stuff about me that don't know me. I don't retaliate to it. I answer the question because they need to be enlightened. They need to be told. I could have told him I've answered this money business so many times, but I've answered because I should be able to answer. You have to be accountable to the people if you want to lead them. You don't just confine it within the stakeholders that vote. I'm accountable to every Gambian because every Gambian here puts in their money. That's why I said it's a passion. Football is a passion that unites us. It's a source of national pride. So looking at it from that angle, we are assuring you that we already have a contract. Once this manifesto is launched, once we are giving the mandate, we have a contract that we can be held accountable.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. And as from today,